Okay, good evening and welcome to the public hearing on behalf of the Alabama Department of Environmental Management. My name is Rebecca Patey. I am the designated hearing officer for these proceedings. The role of the hearing officer is limited to ensuring an orderly hearing so that an accurate record of this hearing may be developed for the department's evaluation. I do not make any decisions regarding the proposed permit actions. On behalf of the department, we appreciate your participation in tonight's hearing for the following proposed permit action for the Tennessee Valley Authority's Colbert Fossil Plant Ash Pond 4 located near 900 Colbert Steam Plant Road, Tuscumbia, Alabama, 35674. The proposed initial issuance of a coal combustion residuals, also known as a CCR permit, number 17-11, to close the plant, Colbert Ash Pond 4. The purpose of this hearing is to provide the public with an opportunity to present oral testimony on the proposed permit actions. In addition to the oral testimony, the department will also consider all written comments submitted before the close of the public comment period. The department has requested your comments, and we appreciate you taking the time to make them known to us. On June 29, 2022, notice of the date, time, place, and purpose of this hearing was posted on the department's website. In addition, the department sent notice of this hearing by email to individuals and organizations who had previously requested advance notice of permit proceedings. A copy of the notice and the email distribution list will be entered into the record of these proceedings. Copies of the public notice, permit application, preliminary determination, and draft permit have been made available for inspection by the public at the offices of the department at 1400 Coliseum Boulevard, Montgomery, as well as on the department's website. This hearing is open to the public, and anyone wishing to present oral testimony or submit a written statement may do so. Lengthy statements or those containing considerable technical or other complex data should be submitted in writing. Summaries of such statements may be presented orally. All testimony and written comments should be as factual as possible and should address the subject of this hearing. This hearing is an opportunity for members of the public to offer comments to help ensure that all relevant factors are considered before a final permit decision is made. Please be advised that the department is limited in the factors it can consider when making permit decisions and must base the determinations only on whether the permit applicant has satisfied these requirements of applicable environmental statutes and regulations granted to ADEM by the legislature. Persons giving testimony may be questioned by the hearing officer or other department staff to clarify points and to develop a better understanding of what is being presented. This proceeding tonight is not an open forum as in question and answer session. This hearing is an opportunity for you to submit comments that you wish the department to consider in the final review of the permit applications. However, you may pose a comment in the form of a question, which will be compiled and addressed by the department in its complete response to the comments. In addition to oral testimony, written comments may be submitted on the proposed permit actions. You do not have to make an oral statement tonight in order to have your written comments considered by the department. Written statements may be submitted to the hearing officer tonight or delivered to the department in Montgomery as directed in the public notice for this hearing. All written statements previously submitted and those received by the department before the end of the public comment period will be included in the hearing record. It is important to note that written comments submitted through postal or electronic mail are given the same consideration as those that are presented in person at this hearing this evening. All oral and written testimony will be included in the hearing record. After giving full consideration to the hearing record, the department will make its final decision on the proposed permit actions and develop responses to comments for the proposed permits. The hearing record, final permit determinations, and responses to comments will be posted to the department's e-file system. This hearing is being captured by a court reporter to develop a transcript of this hearing for review by the department. In addition, the entire proceeding is being recorded on video to be posted on the department's YouTube channel to make it accessible to the public. Now, let's move on to the purpose of this hearing, the receipt of public comment. The order of appearance of persons giving testimony will be as follows. First, representatives of the department's land division, then a representative of the TVA, if requested, any elected officials or their representatives who have pre-registered to speak. All remaining members of the public will be heard in the order in which they registered during the pre-registration offered online or by phone, and then those registered on site at this hearing this evening. I now recognize Mr. Jared Kelly to present a statement on behalf of the department's land division. Mr. Kelly?
Good evening. My name is Jared Kelly, and on behalf of the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, we thank you for your participation in the permitting process for the Colbert Fossil Plant Permit 17-11. Tennessee Valley Authority submitted to the Alabama Department of Environmental Management an application for the initial issuance and variance of the coal combustion residuals permit to close for the Ash Pond 4 at the Colbert Fossil Plant Permit number 17-11. The Ash Pond 4 is a CCR surface impoundment located in Section 6 and 7, Township 4 South, Range 12 West in Colbert County, Alabama, consisting of approximately 71.67 acres with a disposal area that consists of approximately 52 acres. The proposed permit will require the permittee to manage CCR in accordance with the conditions of the proposed permit, ADM Admin Code 335-13-15, standards for the disposal of coal combustion residuals in landfills and surface impoundments, and the approved permit application. Groundwater monitoring and corrective action requirements in the proposed permit establish a groundwater monitoring system of wells that provides an accurate representation of the groundwater quality underlying the units and a groundwater monitoring plan to establish appropriate sampling and analysis of the system to detect the presence of CCR constituents for units where CCR constituents exceed acceptable levels. The proposed permit establishes corrective action requirements to remediate contamination caused by the units. Closure criteria in the proposed permit establish requirements for all units to close in accordance with specified standards and timeframes. Post-closure criteria in the proposed permit require each unit be maintained for a period of time after closure, including maintaining groundwater monitoring and corrective action to ensure the long-term safety of units that are closing. The permittee must comply with all conditions of the proposed permit, except to the extent and for the duration such noncompliance is authorized by a variance granted by ADM. The first variance request, the final grade of the cover system be less than 5% and greater than 25% for the Ash Pond 4. The second variance request, using erosion control measures as specified in the permit application, other than horizontal terraces for Ash Pond 4. Previously approved variances to exclude boron as an Appendix 4 assessment monitoring constituent and from 335-13-15.06, paren 6, paren H, 2, to the extent that provisions preclude the use of federal groundwater protection standards of 6 micrograms per liter for cobalt, 15 micrograms per lead, 40 micrograms per liter for lithium, and 100 micrograms per liter for molybdenum, are no longer necessary because the department amended ADM Admin Code 335-13-15 on February 15, 2021 to remove boron as an Appendix 4 constituent and establish GWPS for cobalt at 6 micrograms per liter, lead at 15 micrograms per liter, lithium at 40 micrograms per liter, and molybdenum for 100 micrograms per liter, in order to maintain consistency with the federal regulations. Therefore, these variances have not been included in the draft permit. Based on our review of the initial permit application, the department has made a preliminary determination that the proposed facility would be in compliance with the applicable state and federal solid waste disposal requirements, and thus protective of public health and the environment. The proposed permit includes the following conditions. Upon renewal, the permit would be valid for a 10-year period. The permittee would conduct groundwater monitoring semi-annually. The permittee would implement and maintain a corrective action program. The permittee would maintain the integrity of the final cover system throughout the life of the permit and post-closure period. The permittee would at all times properly maintain the facility and all systems in accordance with the application and the permit. The permittee would obtain the approval of ADM for any change or modification to the facility or system which might otherwise result in noncompliance with the permit or ADM's administration code. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to provide an opportunity to receive public comment regarding the application and proposed permit. The department welcomes your input to this process and will consider all technical comments prior to making a final decision concerning the issuance of this permit, and will develop a response to comments which will become part of the public record and be posted to the department's e-file system. Thank you again for participating in the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Okay, I would recognize a representative of the permittee if one had, and I am checking and there has not been one, so I will move on to see if there has been a request for any elected or public officials to speak as of right now. And there is not. Thank you. So we will now proceed to the receipt of comments from members of the public. As indicated in the public notice for this hearing, oral testimony for each registered speaker is limited to 7 minutes. If anyone has prepared a statement that cannot be presented in a 7-minute time frame, please use your time for oral testimony to summarize your comments and submit your full statement to the department in writing for placement into the record. First, I recognize, let's see, I have Blake Hardwich.
That's right.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. As you said, I'm Blake Hardwick. I serve as Executive Director of the Energy Institute of Alabama. The Institute is made up of electricity distributors and producers. They include Alabama Power, Power South, TVA, Electric Cities of Alabama, the Alabama Municipal Electric Authority, and the Alabama Rural Electric Association. I come here tonight to talk about the closure and the close in place of Coal Ash Pond 4. The Energy Institute's mission is to promote reliable, affordable, and clean energy to help grow our economy, create high-paying jobs, and build public support for Alabama's energy industry. The closure of Coal Ash Pond 4 at the Colbert Fossil Plant is being completed pursuant to EPA's Coal Combustion Residual Rule 46 CFR Part 257 Subpart D. The regulations address requirements for operating criteria, closure and post-closure, design criteria, groundwater monitoring and corrective action, and record keeping and reporting. The criteria for conducting closure allows for leaving the coal combustion residuals in place and installing a final cover system or through removal of the CCR. The Energy Institute of Alabama contracted Pila Geo Environmental, which is an environmental consulting firm, to do independent studies on all the sites in Alabama that were closing their coal ash pond. The lady who authored these studies is a hydrogeologist with 40-plus years in hydrogeological investigations. So I will be referring to some of her words in our independent study. Stated that the federal and state rules allow for in-place closure of CCR impoundments by meeting certain requirements and performance standards as summarized. To control, minimize, or eliminate infiltration of liquids to and releases of CCR, leachate, and contaminated runoff, remove free liquids from CCR and stabilize, install final cover system meeting design criteria, maintain integrity and effectiveness of the final cover system, monitor groundwater and quality conditions. Closure in place of Ash Pond 4 was a multi-step process designed to meet and perform to these rules. The cessation of Ash Pond 4 use was in 2016, and the closure plans were submitted to ADEM in February of 2016. Safety inspections have been conducted at the ash ponds and observations documented under TVA's Coal Combustion Product Storage Facilities Inspections Program by trained professionals and dam safety engineers. No record or knowledge of structural instability has been identified. Documents available regarding the ash ponds are abundant and comprehensive in addressing the closure activities and continuing investigations and evaluation of the on-site data. Site characterization has been passed on phase investigations employing multiple investigatory techniques. Comprehensive drilling and testing of the subsurface in the vicinity of the ash pond has allowed for a collection of very detailed data of interpretation of the site geology and hydrogeology. Closure in place establishes source control by horizontal and vertical containment of the dewatered CCR by the embankment dike system. The underlying native earth materials and the multi-layered composite cover system installed at this ash pond. The independent study performed by Pila Geo Environmental concludes that the multi-component closure program for the Colbert Fossil Plant ash pond is comprehensive and robust and includes both physical and hydraulic engineered technologies to create source containment and redundant safety features and environmental protection controls that have been designed to rigorously comply with and achieve the closure in place regulatory requirement. For these reasons, we support TVA's closure permit. Scientific data shows these plans will achieve a compliance with groundwater protection standards. I urge you to move forward in approving the CCR permitting process and allowing TVA to proceed with a seal-in-place closure method. Thank you.
Okay, I will now recognize Ernest Hall. Mr. Hall? If you would step up to the microphone.
I'm Johnston, Keith Johnston.
Oh, did something?
You want me to see if there's a hall?
That's you, that's you.
Oh,
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, step to the microphone. State your name and any interest or organization you represent. Speak clearly into the microphone to ensure an accurate record of your testimony can be recorded. Please also remember that it's not a question and answer session.
right. Okay. Hello, my name's Keith Johnston. I'm a senior attorney in the Alabama office of the Southern Environmental Law Center. Thank you for this public hearing concerning the draft coal combustion residuals permit for TVA's Plant Colbert, permit 17-11. We are still in the process of reviewing the draft permit and supporting materials for the state permitting of the closure of TVA's Ash Pond 4. And my comments tonight provide a summary of more thorough comments that SELC and our clients will submit in writing by the comment deadline. Although this draft permit concerns Ash Pond 4, I would also like to include comments on Ash Pond 5 and Ash Pond 1 that TVA owns and are on the Colbert site. These ponds are also polluting the groundwater, may contain ash saturated by groundwater, and may impound groundwater as well. Ash Ponds 5 and 1 may also be subject to the state and federal CCR rules. Ignoring Ash Ponds 5 and 1 at Colbert is a continuing violation under the CCR rules and RCRA by TVA. EPA has now made it abundantly clear that utilities cannot close ash ponds in place that will leave coal ash in groundwater and will continue to pollute in perpetuity. As EPA Administrator Michael Regan recently said, EPA will act to protect communities, and based on my prior experience, if there is coal ash in contact with groundwater, that's putting the health and safety of communities at risk and requires our attention. Furthermore, in January of this year, EPA determined that alternative closure deadlines requested by several utilities would not be allowed because of violations of the federal CCR rules by these ash ponds in their closure plans. In these determinations, EPA summarized the plain language of the CCR rule and the clear policy imperatives in the rules. I quote from EPA, quote, "In addition, the proposed determinations restate EPA's consistently held position that surface impoundments or landfills cannot be closed with coal ash in contact with groundwater. Limiting the contact between coal ash and groundwater after closure is critical to minimizing releases of contaminants into the environment and will help ensure communities near these facilities have access to safe water for drinking and recreation." In these determinations, EPA applied a plain language and straightforward analysis to the requirements of the 2015 federal CCR rule. The rule includes the provisions found in 40 CFR section 25.7.102 that free liquids must be eliminated from these sites under a closure plan, that closure plans must preclude probability of future impoundment of water, sediment, or slurry, and that closure must control, minimize, or eliminate to the maximum extent feasible post-closure infiltration of liquids into the waste and releases of CCR, leachate, or contaminated runoff to the ground or surface waters or to the atmosphere. ADEM's CCR program has these same provisions, and for ADEM to interpret them differently does not make sense, especially when the plain language and intent of the rules is clear. Ash Pond 4 will undoubtedly remain in contact with groundwater and impound water under ADEM's current draft permit. In addition, in these CCR determinations, EPA said that to treat polluted groundwater, the utility has to actually remove pollutants from the environment, not count on dilution, or have some hope that pollutants will eventually go away. The bottom line is that the utility cannot allow pollutants to remain persistently prevalent throughout the surrounding environment in perpetuity without some type of treatment. As ADEM knows, at Colbert, TVA has unilaterally capped one coal ash pond in place, Ash Pond 4, has capped some portion of Ash Pond 5, and did nothing at Ash Pond 1. Pollution continues to emanate from all of these ponds according to TVA's own data. There are clear violations of the state and federal CCR rules, and ADEM with this permit plans to allow it. Specifically, Ash Pond 4 has been sitting in groundwater that continues to pollute and will continue to do so under this current draft permit. TVA's own admissions and documents show that coal ash is sitting in groundwater. As much as 7 to more than 20 feet of coal ash may be saturated with groundwater. In addition, groundwater wells surrounding Ash Pond 4 show high levels of arsenic, cobalt, molybdenum, and more pollutants. We now have several years of data showing that these levels will not subside in decades, or maybe even centuries, under the current cap on coal ash 4, and that cap has been in place since 2018. TVA plans to use monitored natural attenuation as its remediation, which, as stated by EPA, does not satisfy the CCR rules when pollution persists. The draft permit and TVA's closure plan for Ash Pond 4 is deficient in numerous ways. For example, we don't know the true extent of the groundwater contamination, and this contamination has not been fully characterized in application materials. Before issuance of a state permit allowing cap in place, there should be modeling by the utility to show the true extent of the contamination. This is especially important for fence-line communities such as Barton. We also have no data showing how effective the cap will be at removing water and lowering groundwater levels in the coal ash. Furthermore, capping the coal ash will not prevent groundwater and surface water contamination. Water will continue to flow through the legacy ash and create pollution in groundwater going to Cane Creek and the Tennessee River. TVA's own data shows that ash will be left in groundwater under the cap, and the utility will not be able to stop the water from flowing into the coal ash when it is piled on top of an alluvial plain. Even if the cap has zero defects and allowed no infiltration from directly over the top of the coal ash, which is highly unlikely, there will still be contaminants leaching from the ash into the surrounding waters and infiltration from the sides and below through groundwater recharge, which the cap does not stop. I have numerous other issues that I wanted to raise, but I'll say in conclusion that SCLC and our clients continue to be concerned by ADEM's rush to permit every one of the coal ash ponds in the state under a cap and close regime, regardless of the pollution taking place or the location of the ash pond. This includes ash ponds 4 and 5 at Colbert, which of 4 has already been capped, and the partial capping of 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, I will now recognize Mr. Ernest Hall. Mr. Hall, if you would come to the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you. And if you would speak into the microphone to give us your name and anybody that you might represent, so that we can get an accurate record of what you have to say to us tonight.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, I guess I'll probably be the only one representing Barton. That's where I live. Mountain Mills Road, 8234 Mountain Mills Road. My name is Ernest Hall. My daughter is Brenda, my daughter. What my concern would be is the portion that they're speaking of, what I heard outside here, was that they've already filled in and took care of the problem, but we don't know that. We never was told that or anything. It's sort of like the other about the landfill. We wasn't told anything. They put that under our nose and we had to accept it. It stinks so bad that we can't help it. I'm gonna get off of that, but the only thing that we would be concerned about is the portion that they're speaking of. If they've already contained it to where all the water runoff would go into the ocean, river out there. And later, after they complete it and they get it rezoned or whatever it takes to do whatever they're supposed to be doing, they stick another landfill in that same spot there like they did in Barton. That is not acceptable. And I'm sure that most all of the people there in Barton is the same thing. Cherokee claims Barton, but they don't own it. It's still Barton. And we hope that the steam plant there, where this property is that you're speaking of, that a later date, that they don't come in and rezone it again and do the same thing. That's what mostly all of them that I spoke to. I don't know whether they accept my thoughts about it or concerns about it. I hope they do, and I hope it does some good that the ones that rezone it, the people, whoever they may be, rezone the property there, will develop it and put a plant or something there where it would be feasible to the public and give them another job or a source, you know. We need commercial buildings, land that could be developed and bring in businesses. People need work. They're in bad shape. West end of Colbert County is the worst of all of them. I don't know why, but it's got that way from do what? We hope that
They maintain.
what?
Did they maintain what they say they're gonna do?
Oh yeah. We hope that they maintain it and continue doing what they say they're going to do, instead of later come back and do the same thing they're not supposed to do. We hope that something will, effect of it will take place. I don't know where it will or not. I hope it don't. But I hope it, they'll, if they want to put me on television, I don't mind talking to them and telling them. And I do, what they did to us there by cramming that dump over there, and it's right pretty close to the water. There's no way that it can keep from going right into that water. I hope they come in and do something about it, because it does stink so bad we can't even sleep at night. I have to turn the fan on and open the back door, blow it where I can get some sleep. It is that bad. All different kinds of chemical smells. That would be my mainest concern, is that. But the steam plant, I've never had no problem with the steam plant. It's always maintained its own business. And I've been in several businesses myself. I know what chemicals will do for you if you get into the wrong kind. And it needs to be more regulated. Whatever it takes. I do appreciate my time to speak with y'all, and hope that it'll do some good for some people. I thank each and every one of you. I appreciate you letting me speak. Thank y'all. Yeah. "86 years old, pretty close. I hope I make it a few more. I've had all kind of operations, both these been replaced my back.
Okay, since there are no further registered speakers, please be advised that unless otherwise notified, the public comment period will end at 5 p.m. on Thursday, August 11th, 2022. All comments must be received at the offices of the department in Montgomery by that time. After consideration of all oral and written comments, the department will make its determinations regarding the proposed permit actions and prepare responses to all relevant comments received. And I thank you for your participation this evening, and this hearing is adjourned. Thank you.